Of course, people knew that Andre de Ruyter was on his way out, but it was the abrupt announcement yesterday that's raised obvious questions around what actually is going on at Eskom.
That's right, and we're seeing a changing of guard at Eskom that was happening, irrespective of this sudden departure. Last year, there was the departure of Mandy Rambaras, the head of the Just Transition Office, resignation of two executive managing directors of Eskom Generation. We see, of course, the new chairman, the new board, the departure of the CEO, the COO, and I'm told that Sikanati Mantshantsha will be leaving at the end of February as the spokesperson of Eskom. And this brings in a period of great change. And by the way, the chief financial officer as well, his contract comes to an end in November this year. It's very unlikely that he'll stay on. So we're seeing a complete change of guard, and, change management is very difficult even at the best of times.
Right.
But these are not the best of times. These are the worst of times. So we're in for a torrid period for the year ahead, I believe.
And that's a concession that Andre de Ruyter has made himself, even before we heard that he's leaving with immediate effect, saying that 2023 is going to be incredibly difficult. Do you reckon it's a foregone conclusion that this ambition that's been announced by several ANC officials, that we can arrest load shedding by the end of the year, is simply just implausible, given all these changes?
Yes, I think it's unrealistic, and these are clearly just political statements. And indicate a kind of a panic that is setting in, in the lead up to the elections next year. So we're seeing a lot of political intervention at the moment, and this is more about vote shedding than it is about load shedding. And we're likely to see this continue, and the danger in this period of uncertainty, this vacuum, this leadership vacuum that's developing at Eskom, is that it's an invitation for politicians to step in and intervene against all rules of good governance, corporate governance. But the level of political intervention has already started, and the first casualty in this step backwards, I think, is going to be the flow of information. And you've seen this already from the resignation of Sikanati Mantshantsha. And I believe we are seeing now the beginnings of an information clampdown, less communication, not authorized to make statements, not authorized to hold media briefings, keep the public informed. This is a natural reaction in the clampdown after an Arab Spring.
Out of interest, did Sikanati tell you that he's leaving?
I won't reveal my sources.
All right, fair enough. There's also going to be a lot of concern, of course, around what happens next. In that very brief statement from Eskom, we were told that an announcement of an acting chief executive will be made soon. And one wonders whether there's anybody who's willing to take up that position, given what's taken place there.
Well, I'm sure there's not many of the right kind of people, but I'm sure there's plenty of the wrong kind of people who would step into that position. Of course, the big fear is that it's going to be a political appointment. And Minister of Electricity, I have been wondering, this uncertainty and this inaction by the President to appoint a new cabinet, to appoint and nominate and name the new Minister of Electricity, the delays and vacillation that we've seen, I think, is an indication that within the party, within the cabinet, within government, there is a lack of consensus. This is still contested and territory, and I think that's probably the reason why we're seeing this paralyzed by inactivity, because there is no consensus about the way forward. And again, that signals a period of lack of decision-making, uncertainty, and leadership vacuum. That's the danger facing South Africa.
Yeah. And as we make sense of that, are we any closer to being able to quantify the real life the real impact of this especially when it comes to our ability to generate electricity. I mean, these resignations en masse, the fact that so much of our fleet is actually just not working the way it should be, allegations of corruption, political interference, sabotage taking place across several of our power stations, all of this. Are we any closer being able to actually meaningfully make sense of what that actually means for ordinary South Africans in the weeks, months, perhaps years ahead?
Well, in economic terms, the cost of load shedding is measured by what is known as the cost of unserved energy, and economists work out the financial impact of the kind of load shedding that we have. But it's a difficult calculation, and what is very often not taken into account because it's too difficult to calculate, not that it shouldn't be assessed, but it's hard to quantify, and that is the amount of business opportunities that walk away from South Africa. Investments that decide that this is not the right time to invest in a 20-year whatever, cement factory, mine, new shaft, whatever. Projects get delayed and deferred. Investments walk away because they don't regard this as a destination with secure electricity supply. And these long-term infrastructure projects and capital investments very often rely on a secure long-term supply of electricity at a known price, where there is not a lot of price uncertainty, because the business case very often depends on this. So these are very hard things to calculate, but the costs to the economy are probably certainly more than 1 percentage point in loss of GDP, which is very significant, because it means as a country we are getting poorer. Because the very low growth in GDP, the growth in GDP is slower than the growth of the population. So when GDP, even though GDP is increasing, if it's increasing slower than the population growth, means we're getting poorer as a country on average. And that's where we are at the moment. So it has very significant cost impact.
Without a doubt. Chris Yelland, thanks as always for making time to speak to us. Appreciate your weighing in on the AM report. Chris Yelland, of course, is an energy expert.